Hi everyone and welcome to the introduction video for the first project. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of how our first project, which is API and UI integrated LLM chatbot, works and how we're going to build it. To begin with, let me talk to you about how this works. So basically, we are going to be asking a question to the chatbot and we'll be using an OpenAI API key to receive an answer. But we won't just get an answer to the question we have asked. We can also filter and select how we want our question to be answered, such as selecting the format by asking it to give a detailed answer or a concise answer, or maybe even give us an answer for which we can put in articles. And we can also select whether we want a professional answer, a casual answer, or maybe a balanced answer. And based on the filters that we have chosen, we will get an answer that is tailored directly to the options that we have selected. Now, let me tell you about the few packages or modules that we're going to use. First, we'll be using an API key from OpenAI. Now, as many of you might know, OpenAI is the developer of ChatGPT, and OpenAI has an option to get free API keys to use in our own projects. And then we have LangChain. LangChain is going to be the main package for structuring our prompts, our templates, and even chaining our prompts together. Then we also have another important package which is Streamlit. Now, Streamlit is a module in Python which helps us to make an interface, a UI interface where we can put in buttons, sidebars, etc. etc. And then we have python.env. Now, this allows us to create an environment variable inside our IDE, which we're using, such as Visual Studio Code. And this helps us to put in our API key safely without others getting access to it when we share our code. Now, let me tell you about the next part, which is going to be env. Now, as I said, the .env from Python will help us to store our API key safely, but it also affects how we make this project. Now, the way we are going to get an API key from OpenAI is we go to their website, which is platform.openai.com, and we get a secret key. Now, you can only copy this key once. And if you share it to others, others can use your API key and you will be charged for its running. But when using an ENV, you can safely store it inside your own environment, as I said, and no one will get access to it unless they also have access to this ENV. Now, you can also use this ENV to call it anytime throughout your whole IDE. Now, it just doesn't have to be only in this project, you can call it in other projects as well, and it functions similar to a variable. So, next, let me talk about how we're going to make it balanced, professional, or creative. Now, there is something in AI, a term called as temperature. Now, temperature basically decides how professional our answer or our AI is going to be. Now, it basically goes from numbers from zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.9, and 1 being the final. So, zero point 0.1 to zero point 0.5 makes it so that we get professional, factual, informational, and precise answers. While leaving it at zero point 0.5 makes it balanced and makes it more like how you would receive an answer from your normal ChatGPT or Gemini. Now, making it creative will make it more casual, making it seem like you're talking to your friend. So now let me tell you about the prompt template. So we are going to be making a prompt template which we are going to feed into the API. So I am going to basically specify what my question is and how the different options which I want it to behave like. Now, as I said, we are going to be allowing it to be professional, creative, balanced, and that is going to be termed as our chatbot type. And we are going to be formatting this answer as insight type. And as I said, we can choose it to be detailed or short and concise. Now, let me also talk about how the Streamlit UI is going to be. Now, Streamlit is something that most people don't use and it's not very common. But Streamlit here is going to help us to make our UI, and we can use different functions which we have already built in into the package to create text areas, sidebars, drop boxes, and even the main area where the answers is going to be displayed. So next, let me talk about how the data is going to be processed. So first, we are going to be making a button in our Streamlit where only after that user clicks on the button, which is going to be get answer or submit answer, only then will it go into the next part, which is going to be validation. Now we are going to make sure that every field is filled, and if not, we are going to raise an error. So after that, it's going to generate the answer through a function that we have created using the define function, which is going to be termed as generate answer. After that, it's going to send the question through the prompt template to the API and receive an answer and display it in our Streamlit UI. Next, let me talk about how this will also be handling real world constraints. Now, we have something called as quotas when it comes to AI. Now, when we use API keys, we can only use it for a particular number of times. And we also have something called as token costs. So for every character that is generated, it takes a particular amount of tokens. And we also have to handle the errors, as many times when the quota gets exceeded, we get quota errors, and sometimes we get limit errors. But this application will be able to handle these API rejections properly. And we are going to make sure that instead of breaking the code completely, we get an error and we'll be able to solve it by ourselves. Now, here, as you can see, we have the main pyramid chain of how our project is going to be structured. So, first, we have the security and ENV. As I said, we'll be protecting our API key. Now, then we'll have the main logic, which is going to be generating the answer, prompt templates, and even structuring through LangChain. And then we have the Streamlit UI, through which the user can experience our project directly like a website. And at the end, have a proper scientific insight chatbot, which will be able to give answers from anything through whatever question we ask. Now, as I said in the starting, you can also filter it to become anything you want. You can make it a psychological analysis chatbot or maybe a financial assistant chatbot, etc. etc. So, I will see you in the main project where we'll be making the code and doing everything that I've explained. See you there.